It's time to review an old classic, Rosemary's Baby. Here we go. Rosemary's Baby stars Mia Farrow, Ruth Gordon, and is directed by Roman Polanski. What is up, guys? Welcome to another review. This is going to be for an old classic. That movie right there, Rosemary's Baby. This is the Criterion edition. I actually bought this out of my own pocket thanks to my Patreons, or my patrons. I always get that mixed up, but my Patreon patrons, one of them, Jack Millis, requested that I do Rosemary's Baby, and thank you, Jack, for asking me to do that, because I went and I bought this. First off, the transfer is just gorgeous for a movie that came out in 1968, and this was just such a great experience. That's really what it was. I haven't seen this movie in probably 20 years, and I don't remember much about it, but of course I remember that last scene. This will be a spoiler review, by the way, but anybody that's seen this movie remembers the last scene. But like I said, I'm so glad I went back and revisited this, and yeah, if you want to pick up this movie, definitely get the Criterion edition. It looks gorgeous. I am not getting paid by Criterion. I wish. But yeah, I can't recommend this one enough. I paid 40 bucks for this too, by the way, so I probably should have waited for the sale, but I really wanted to see this. And also, before we dig deep into this, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Diogo Gomez, who asked me for a shout out, so there you go. And then also Lee Modlin. Lee is one of those subscribers that constantly supports what I do and even goes further and comments on a lot of my videos. And so I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you, Lee. I really appreciate it. Plus, I like your first name. My name's Lee. So there you go. But anyway, on to the review. First, let's get into the plot synopsis. Rosemary's Baby is about Rosemary. Her and her husband, they are a young couple. They move into this apartment complex in New York. They want to start a family. They want to have a baby. And they meet this couple. But this elderly couple, the Cassavetes, Minnie and Roman, they really dig a little bit too deep into the lives of Rosemary and her husband, even giving her this charm, this necklace to wear that has this eerie smell. And soon in the movie, we discover that this is a story of witchcraft. This couple, the Cassavetes, they are part of this like witch coven, and they are trying to birth the devil, or the child of the devil. And so they want to use Minnie as the host or the mother of the devil. One thing I love so much about this movie is that it really just gets under your skin without necessarily being ultimately scary. You know, it's not one of those movies that for 2 hours, it's a constant scare fest. No, this is a very well-directed film by Roman Polanski. You know, he cements himself among the greats with his direction of this movie, and I believe this was one of his first movies he's ever directed. He stayed really close to the source material, but to tell a great story, to get to know the characters without constantly depending on a jump scare or, trying to get under the audience's skin. That is done, but it's done naturally throughout this movie. It's not forced at all. It really is just a joyous experience to sit and watch this whole thing unfold. It's a straight up chronologically told movie, and you can't take your eyes off of it along the way. But that's not to say that there aren't some like striking visuals, haunting visuals in this movie, because yes, there are. The scene where Rosemary gets pregnant, has sex with her husband because, they're going through this process of trying to get pregnant. She literally has sex with the devil. And for a director to approach that scene, you probably have to be really careful. And I think Roman Polanski did such a great job because it is, like a human form of the devil. If you dig behind the scenes, it's kind of funny because this guy showed up on set. He is completely buck naked, except that he has this reptile type exterior, devilish type exterior, I guess what you would imagine the devil to look like. And Mia Farrow has stated that, after the set, he was like, "Thank you very much, have a good day." But it's pretty damn crazy. And to be honest, when you're watching that scene, you really can't believe what you're watching. But that's just a perfect example of horror sneaking up on the viewer. That's what this movie does. It sneaks up on you. You are so invested in the story, in the characters, in what's going on. So by the time it does sneak up on the viewer, you are kind of caught off guard, but pleasantly surprised. A lot of surprises along the way in this movie, which I loved. Also, there are these scenes where Rosemary's having these hallucinations, and in the hallucinations, she's like on a boat and she's being told to go down below, and that kind of symbolizes hell. Again, just some really creepy shit. Now, I have to say, the acting in this movie, top-notch all the way around, but especially Mia Farrow, who plays Rosemary, and Ruth Gordon, who I believe won a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for her role as Minnie. I like how the castavetes were kind of the opposite of what you would think members of a witch coven would be like. They seem like really nice people. You know, they slowly creep into Rosemary's life and literally trying to bring hell on earth. Now, Mia Farrow goes through quite a few changes throughout this movie. She has a great story arc. She starts off as this like attractive, stereotypical young mother-to-be, full of life, but throughout this pregnancy, you can tell that it just eats away at her. She even like cuts her hair, her physical appearance, she kind of shrinks. Whereas when you're pregnant, you're supposed to gain weight, and she actually loses weight. So Mia Farrow really gave herself over to this role. And, you know, I really appreciated that. There is one scene, too, where I have to mention, it's just crazy. The scene where she walks into traffic, Roman Polanski actually told her, hey, there's cars coming, we're in New York City, but I want you to go ahead and go into traffic. And she actually did that. Nobody in the traffic knew. And so when she walks out there, of course the cars stop. But, you know, behind the scenes, Roman Polanski told her, yeah, they're going to stop because you're pregnant. And of course they did. But everybody in the crew was like, hell no, there's no way I'm doing that. But it's an interesting scene to watch, you know, knowing that behind the scenes, the whole thing wasn't planned at all. Or it was planned uncautiously, I guess you could say. Now, of course, we have to talk about that final scene in this movie, which is completely insane. After the baby is born, they drug Rosemary. They want to keep her away from the baby. And, of course, she finds her way out. She starts hiding her pills. And then once she finally gets to see her baby,
what have you done to it? What have you done to its eyes?
I think the scene is directed very well because you only see for like a split second, and it's kind of like a fade in of, you know, what Satan's spawn looks like. And I just love, you know, how back then they depended on practical effects for everything. And I know I've talked about practical effects ad nauseum, and I will say I have no problem with CGI effects. There have been some amazing CGI effects, but I really appreciate these older movies that didn't have that luxury, and so they had to really think outside the box, get creative, and it just really worked in this movie. It was so unsettling. And of course, the score in this movie, it's bookended by this like haunting, almost lullaby sounding thing, who Mia Farrow herself actually sang. Oh, and also, really eerie behind-the-scenes tidbit, really tragic tidbit, actually. Roman Polanski was married to Sharon Tate, and the year after this movie was released, of course, the Manson family, you know, committed the murders at Sharon Tate's house. So there's kind of a curse on this movie. Also, John Lennon from the Beatles, their song Helter Skelter, he was actually killed in the Dakota where this movie was actually filmed. So some really creepy and eerie behind the scenes facts about this movie actually kind of reminded me of like the Poltergeist curse. Of course, I'm going to give this movie a Trapped on an Island. It is one of the classics. It's been in so many like top 20 greatest horror film lists of all time, scariest horror films lists of all time. I'm glad I finally own it, and it's one that I'm looking forward to rewatching again over the years. So thank you, Jack Millis, for requesting it. I really appreciate it. So anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on Rosemary's Baby? Throw me some suggestions for like classics from like the 60s, maybe even 50s that I might not have watched yet. I like going back and looking at these older horror movies. What are some of your favorites? Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. On Fridays, we do Free for Fridays. If you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out. Hey, babe, I'm recording. Give me a couple minutes.